Hello everyone. In the absence of induction day, Mr. Linnell has asked me to send some information out about our up and coming enrichment programme. My name is Miss Redding and I am the Enrichment Coordinator for sixth forms. So any of the enrichment opportunities that are available to you, we have quite a wide selection. I hope that this brief presentation will give you a taster of what we offer, because sixth form isn't just about your A-level results. It's about making you the most employable person you could possibly be, whether you are going straight into work after sixth form or an apprenticeship, and it's about making you the most appealing student if you decide to go for a UCAS application. My contact details are obviously on this opening slide, so feel free to email me if you have any questions off the back of this presentation. And hopefully you'll find it interesting, a little taster of what we offer beyond the academics. Right, this activity would normally involve everybody standing up in the hall for the presentation, because the aim of the game with enrichment is to find out who stands out from the crowd. And we usually find that at the start of year 12, those students coming in from year 11 don't necessarily stand out. They don't always have something that makes them unique and makes them appealing or an attractive option for an admissions tutor at university or a company for an apprenticeship position. So I've got a couple of questions, a couple of scenarios for you to think about to hopefully reflect on this. I don't expect you to actually stand up at your desk or your dining room table, wherever you may be at this moment, but you think about that. Normally by the end of this process, we only have one or two across the whole room that tick all of these criteria, and that's something that we hopefully will try and address. So first up, employers and universities want students with good time management skills. So are you the kind of person who meets deadlines for project work or homework? Do you submit it on time? Do you have it ready? Are you punctual? So do you turn up to lessons on time, or do you come in 5 minutes late because you needed to go to the toilet and catch up with a friend on the way to class? Okay. Next thing is commitment. Have you shown any kind of commitment? So spent 3 months or more pursuing a hobby, a volunteering opportunity? Have you committed to a fundraising project that has lasted for an extended period of time? If you have, then that says a lot about you as a person. You will stand out from the crowd a little bit more. If not, then that's something that maybe you should start thinking about pursuing now, if you haven't already, in light of our current circumstances. Employers and universities are looking for leadership skills. Are you the kind of person who has developed these at the moment? Are you part of Scouts or Guides? Are you a cadet? Are you a captain of a sports team maybe, or have a leadership role within another community group? Have you been developing these skills, or is that something that during your time in sixth form you could focus on? Team working ability. Now, very few jobs in life require you to completely work in isolation on your own. You will have to work with a team in some way, shape or form in almost any career that you ever pursue. So can you show that you are good when working as part of a team? Are you part of a sports team? Are you part of a drama cast or a choir? Have you participated in any group projects over the last 12 months? Have you been part of the Duke of Edinburgh Award and shown team working skills that way? All of these things feed into making you stand out and making you look like an appealing option. And finally, determination. So have you faced some form of adversity or overcome a challenge? Because employers want, in the long run, determined, resilient people in their workforce, people who can problem solve and face challenges and are resilient to the stresses that may crop up within that job field. The big question is, with all of these things considered, and I've only picked a selection of the most commonly mentioned employability kind of skills, with these considered, will you stay standing? Will you stand out from the crowd? With your hand on your heart right now, will you be appealing to a university admissions team, or would you get that apprenticeship or that job role? If that hand on heart answer is no, then don't worry about it, because enrichment and sixth form and the journey you take over the next 2 years will hopefully change that dramatically. You are starting afresh. This is a brand new start, whether you came to Taverham High School or whether you are an external candidate. So you can shape this opportunity and be whoever you want to be over the next 2 years. Now, I've got some information here about why enrichment is so important. Basically, 568,000 UCAS applications were made in January of this year. That is slightly more than the UCAS applications that were completed last year. So there are over 550,000 people that you're competing against for university places. So you need to have something that makes somebody go, yeah, they're not just somebody who is going to focus on the qualifications. Obviously, they are massively important when you go to university and actually getting your degree, but they are a well-rounded individual who can clearly bring more to the table than an A, B, or a C in an A-level subject. You may not necessarily be interested in going to university, so it's useful to know that actually this year, in 2018-19, there were 393,000 apprenticeship starts in the UK. Only 38,000 of these were in the East of England region. So if you're looking at staying local, that competition pool is a lot more competitive for our region than it would be nationally, and apprenticeship applications are a lot more competitive than UCAS places. We often get a little bit of criticism from each departing year group saying that we don't focus enough on university alternatives. So I've worked quite hard to change that dynamic over the last year, and part of that reasoning is due to these statistics. With so fewer places available for apprenticeships, there are always greater demand for those roles, and it's a competitive field. So you've got to be ready by the end of sixth form to go into that field fighting for every single spot. According to Deloitte, a huge national employer or multinational employer, 2018, they surveyed a number of professions and found that those entering the workplace in general lack interpersonal skills, confidence and motivation, critical thinking, innovation and creative thinking. This is something that you can't teach. You can't teach these skills through an A-level subject. They're skills you have to develop through pursuing other interests and making other commitments beyond the academics. So that's why enrichment is such a big part of our delivery or part of our package here at Taverham Sixth Form. And as I've said, it's our responsibility to ensure that you're equipped to be successful when leaving school, and that means that you go into these very competitive environments, whatever field you choose, but you go into these competitive environments with the skills to fight and get whatever it is that you want, whatever decision or path you want to choose after sixth form. Okay, the next slide gives a bit of information about what enrichment looks like at Taverham Sixth Form. So it's a bit more of an overview, and I'll go into a bit more detail. So you will have in year 12 2 hours of a fortnight of timetabled enrichment activities. I'll talk about those in a bit more detail in a bit. We have community-based volunteering opportunities, and that is opportunities both inside school and beyond school. We've got a number of professional relationships with local organisations that will hopefully give you the opportunity to develop a variety of different skills. We have guest speakers from different career paths come into school to talk about how they got where they have done, how did they achieve, what advice they would give. We have one-day events and visits to help inform your choices following sixth form. So that is events within school as well as external visits. to hopefully give you information and guidance as to what it is that you want to do. Some of these opportunities have been greatly affected this year for the current year 12 in relation to coronavirus. So whether these will be physical visits or more online events for the coming year as well, we don't know, but the events are there nonetheless. We have a work experience week, so an opportunity for you to get out into the workplace and develop some of these skills, as well as professional contacts, which may be useful in your time beyond sixth form. And we have subject-specific trips, so I support a lot of A-level subject areas to lead cooperative trips for subjects, because quite often with smaller A-level groups it's harder for single subjects to take students to events that aren't just locally within Norfolk and Norwich. So we do try and offer more collaborative trips to give increased scope for that in terms of supporting the academic side of your subject areas. So now a bit more information about the timetable programme. We have run a really successful life skills programme over the last year, and this was brand new off the feedback we received 2 years ago. Involved young enterprise and financial planning for groups. They did some upcycling, DIY, general kind of household repair skills. They have spent some time looking at driving test theory practice. So any general skills that you would need for life are covered within this programme. We have Film Club, which has allowed students to watch and critique different directors, genres and time periods in terms of films. Really helpful in terms of your critical thinking and creativity, especially if you're particularly interested in media. Grub on a Grant is always a highly popular timetabled option. This is basically you developing your cooking skills and meal preparation ahead of moving away from home, which quite a lot of people decide to do after sixth form. For this enrichment option, you do need to provide your own ingredients. So it's not something that you should pick if you think, actually, I'm not going to be able to get to the supermarket to make sure I've got this, what I need for the session. So something to bear in mind. Health and wellbeing, another popular pathway. It focuses on sports and exercise and how we can use our extracurricular time to support our physical and mental well-being. This includes doing some more familiar sports, so things that you might have played in PE lessons further down the school, but also going off-site and doing some more obscure kind of health and well-being type activities. Yoga is one example of something that I suppose was a bit more alternative. We had students go and play foot golf last year, go mini golf, go bowling, all that kind of thing. So it allows you to support your physical and mental health. Outside an environment, this is a potentially new pathway for the forthcoming year. Again, we always trying to improve our provision at Taverham sixth form. So off the back of feedback from the current year 12, they said that this was a real gap in our provision, being able to be outside and at one with nature, as well as a more activism and kind of environmental awareness has really come to the fore over the last year. So we wanted to harness some of that enthusiasm and hopefully get our sixth form involved in some outdoor projects, environmental activism, and developing an appreciation for nature in general. And finally, we've got the extended project qualification. Now this has a little star next to it because it is the only option that you would be expected to complete for the whole year. All of the other options would require a changeover at February half term, mainly because it allows you to add a bit of breadth to your experience within sixth form. But also it ensures that those pathways that are most popular can be enjoyed by more students. So we think that's the fairest way. The extended project, however, obviously being an official accredited qualification, the equivalent of an AS qualification in terms of UCAS points, you need to commit to for the year. Now, extended project is a fantastic opportunity for you to develop a project on absolutely anything you like. It is usually considered a more academic pathway, but I don't think that's necessarily accurate, because most people choose to write an essay or conduct some research of some description, but there is so much scope to actually create or build an artifact of your choosing. We've got a student this year who is designing and making his own axe because he's really interested in blacksmithing. We've got a student who is developing their own martial art kata, and we've had students who've made films as part of the project, because honestly, the world is your oyster when it comes to extended project qualification. Most universities recognise it as and reflect that within their offers. So if you have an EPQ alongside, or completed an EPQ alongside your A levels, you can get slightly reduced offers in terms of your other subjects. If it comes down to a competition for places, those students who have completed an extended project will give them the extra little bit of edge, basically. And even comes down to certain universities will offer financial benefit for those students who completed their extended project qualification. I know the UEA run a Bright Sparks programme, and we've got one of our alumni students from 2 years ago who has actually received £1,000 grant, so tax-free money that she doesn't have to pay back because of her extended project qualification and how she did with that. So that could be you supporting in terms of your academics as well as financially. Although a slightly bigger commitment, you can get so much more out of it as an opportunity for the year. So think really carefully about what you would be interested in out of this selection. This isn't as well an exhaustive list. I'm very interested to hear what things you would be interested in getting involved in beyond this programme, because it may be that if there's enough interest in, I don't know, book club, then we can run that as a timetabled session for the coming year. So enrichment, and I'll say this time and time again, is very much what you make of it. You tell us what you want and we will do what we can to give you that option and make that accessible over your time with us at Taverham Sixth Form. Now, as well as our timetabled enrichment, we do have some community-based projects as well that you can get involved in. Classroom support is one of those within schools, so you will be aware at this stage that your timetabled sessions are greatly reduced compared to lower down the school. You have a lot more independent study time, which a lot of people find really valuable to support their studies. But some people take the opportunity to use this time to get involved in additional community-based projects to support their applications for whatever it is they decide to do. Classroom support is one of those, so you could arrange to go into a subject department to support with their Key Stage 3 lessons, or do some tutoring with Key Stage 4, depending on your own kind of confidence within that particular area. Teachers were always ready and willing to offer additional opportunities in that respect. We also have wider community support. So these are projects that we are involved in beyond the school community. So I'm currently broaching some volunteering opportunities with Norfolk Museum Service. So whether you're interested in history or not doesn't necessarily have to factor in with that. You can get involved in their front of house team to develop your kind of communication skills, customer service skills. You can be involved in their financial or administration team, event planning. There are so many opportunities within that you can get involved in. We've also engaged in some involvement with local care homes and local community groups, different age groups, whether that's DIY, more kind of hands-on practical stuff, or whether that is working with patients and members of the community directly. We've had a variety of different opportunities there. And you also have the opportunity to independently organise your own volunteering. So one of our Access students this year has organised some volunteering at a charity shop, and she goes and spends a few hours once a fortnight going to help out within this charity shop during school hours, because we can authorise that through the Enrichment Programme, and that has massively supported her in terms of her confidence, in terms of working with others. It's been a really fantastic opportunity. So she's clearly making the most of the time that she's been given. Basically, this message is really important. Our enrichment offer is flexible to suit all students. So you get out of enrichment exactly what you put in ultimately. So please get involved with the programme in some way, shape or form, because the more you get involved, the more you'll get out of it. And I am open-minded to hearing ideas and suggestions to make it better and improve. Now, in terms of indicating your interest, you should have an interest slip within the paperwork pack that you are sent. So fill that in along with the other paperwork that needs to come back to the sixth form office. It is just an idea of interest. It helps us inform the timetable, as with your A-level subjects at the start of the academic year. We normally have a couple of weeks, because most people start with 4. We normally have a couple of weeks where people are deciding what they're most interested in and what they want to pursue. So there will be some chopping and changing within that first few weeks in terms of enrichment options. Obviously, it also helps us timetable to know how many people are interested in which options, so we make the most of the time that we've got and hopefully get everybody their first choices. If not their first choice, their second choice. And then if your second choice is chosen then or allocated to you for the first term, then you will be given priority for your first choice option in the rotation in February. Again, if you have any questions on that, please do email. I suppose the last takeaway message is this idea that enrichment is for you. So if you take the time over the next 2 years alongside your academics to invest in yourself, then you're going to be all the more better for it in terms of your own physical and mental health, in terms of your ability to cope with a different style of learning that you may not necessarily be as familiar with, and in terms of making you a really appealing employability or university option. And the more effort you put in, the more you get out. So carefully consider your options, because enrichment has the potential to be really engaging and motivating for students, but only if you put the effort in. As I mentioned, if there are any questions, then feel free to email me. My address is at the start of the PowerPoint. If not, then I look forward to meeting you in September, hopefully, fingers crossed, and working with you over the next 2 years to make Taverham sixth form work for you. Thank you very much.